Listen.
In South Africa, a native herb seems to be saving lives. So you're really saying that 50% of your patients previously would have died, and now with Sutherlandia, they're going away?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Herbs are part of an ancient and sometimes unusual medical tradition.
It's all way beyond what we normally think of as medicine.
Demand for herbal remedies is booming as more and more of us are convinced they work.
Very well-used remedy for toxic conditions, skin disease, joint problems.
Some of the claims are dramatic.
St John's wort has changed my life because it's enabled me to be me.
1 + 1 is not equal to 2. 1 + 1 is equal to 10.
So do herbs really work? Do they offer something special? And could they even provide the key for medicines of the future?
I'm going to take a new look at these ancient medicines and find out if there's any evidence that they really have special healing powers.
Today, haven't we?
Isha Mystery was born with eczema.
Last night. I put the leg in.
As she's got older, it's got worse. Today it covers most of her body. It frequently makes her life a living hell.
The amount of distress is traumatic both for her and for ourselves. It just takes so much out of you. You don't realise it, you just keep going on and on. But what happens is you feel physically and mentally whacked out. Bottom line is you're looking for something that can cure her.
To stop her scratching, she wears special clothes that cover her entire body. The mistress have tried conventional medicine, but nothing has helped. In desperation, they're now pinning their hopes on herbs.
We've tried homeopathic medicine, but then her itching got worse and worse and worse, so we stopped that. I hope herbs doesn't go the same way. I hope that going the herb route, I'll find a long-term cure for her. Come on, let's get the puzzle out.
The Mysteries are just one of hundreds and thousands of families who are turning to herbs.
In Britain today, herbal remedies are the fastest growing alternative therapy. It's a £100 million a year business. Demand is so high, there's a herbalist on almost every high street.
In this one building, there are herbalists from Japan, China, India and Tibet working alongside each other. And in almost any town you'll find herbalists like these, or ones from Africa, the West Indies or Western Europe. Each one is using a different tradition with different herbs in slightly different ways. What are you making?
I'm making a traditional decoction for the digestive system. This is the famous ginseng, which is the main herb. We always have.
One of the most popular herbal treatments is traditional Chinese medicine.
It looks like a fungus.
Quite fragrant. No, now we're going to add the fungus.
Practitioners claim to cure everything from acne to smoking. There's a baffling array of doctors and an equally baffling array of herbs.
For instance, saw palmetto, which is for male urinary discomfort. Sage leaf, that's for women during and after menopause. And I've got here some ginseng, which is supposed to keep your energy levels up and keep you staying sharp. Could do with some of that. It's a hypochondriac's dream.
And if all this sounds strange, it gets even more intriguing.
This may not look like a medical treatment, but this dancing is a part of the Ayurvedic medical system that comes from Sri Lanka, which uses herbs and oils to treat the body, but dancing to treat the mind. It's all way beyond what we normally think of as medicine.
Yet some people claim herbs have transformed their lives. One of these people is Michael Campbell. For years, he suffered from crippling leg pains.
I would walk for 400 yards and then I had to stop because the pain was so severe, and then I could wait 5 minutes and then I could walk again for another 400 yards and then I had to stop again.
Michael, a central heating engineer, was diagnosed with a dangerous circulation condition called intermittent claudication.
I would try and walk through the pain, but the pain was so severe that I couldn't. I had to stop.
The usual treatment is surgery, but Michael has had bad experiences in the past.
There was no way that I was going to go and have surgery. I was scared of it. It frightened me.
So he visited a herbalist who gave him ginkgo.
That's it.
To his astonishment, it seemed to work.
I don't know how it works. I don't know how aspirin works either, but I know that ginkgo is beneficial to me. I can walk for 4 to 5 hours. Sometimes I have to slow down a bit. These are things I couldn't do before, but I can now do it with ginkgo.
It sounds remarkable, but one person's experience, however powerful, isn't scientific proof.
As herbal medicines come flying from the shelves, are any of them working? Can they cure people? Can they even provide something that conventional medicines can't? In this programme, I'm going to put herbal medicines to the test.
Herbalists can point to thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. The oldest texts date back 5,000 years. Today, researchers are still collecting and recording how they were used traditionally. It's a vast body of ancient knowledge that herbalists still draw on.
The wonders of an ordinary meadow in England is that you're actually surrounded by medicines. This is a classic one here. This is the yarrow, the milfoil with 1,000 leaves, as it's called. It was a very well-used remedy in traditional European medicine. We use it particularly for fever management.
For many people, the very naturalness of herbs is one of their big attractions.
Here, right next to it, is the agrimony. It's the church spire, as it's sometimes called for obvious reasons. The root of this is one of the best astringent remedies we have for children. It quietly calms and almost numbs an agitated digestion. You can see the long strap-shaped leaf here. This is the ribwort, or the Plantago lanceolata, used very much as a mucilaginous plant. It contains a mucus which, when you chew it and swallow it, lines the upper digestive tract. And when you mulch it in, as a wound dressing, for example, it provides a nice soothing demulcent surface on it.
Now, it's well known that some plants contain medicinal compounds.
You know, the bark of a willow tree contains a compound that helps to relieve pain, and scientists copied it, and that way we got aspirin. Morphine used to be made from opium poppies. But herbalists are claiming that herbs aren't just there to provide raw materials for drugs. They can be powerful medicines in their own right.
But is there any evidence for these claims? To find out more, I've come to Exeter to consult Simon Mills. I'm interested in understanding the differences in the way a herbalist would treat somebody from a conventional medic. So if I tell you some of the kind of symptoms I have, then maybe you could treat me in the way you normally would.
Of course.
Well, I have been feeling really run down, and I've had a cold sore and conjunctivitis just in the last 2 weeks. Simon started with a routine checkup.
Can I just check a couple of things? Can I just check your pulse, please? And can I see your tongue just open wide? Let me stick it out. That's great. Thank you very much.
That was quick.
It's very interesting because the tongue as a tool for assessing the body has largely dropped out of fashion, but it used to be one of the best ways of seeing what was going on in there.
And what does my tongue tell you about me?
How?
The diagnosis came as a bit of a surprise.
In your case, it's a little bit of heat damp.
Heat damp. I couldn't quite believe what I was hearing.
Humid might be the best way of describing that in common language. A combination of hot, which is excessive activity, metabolic activity, as well as others. Running the furnace is quite high. And dampness, which is a metaphor of infection and contagion and marshy, boggy, not clean. Dampness is the old...
Hot, damp, marshy, boggy, not clean. Now, herbalists claim it's a useful way of putting people into categories because it helps them get behind the symptoms to the whole person. But it sounds bizarre to me. If you mean by hot that I'm very active and by damp that I'm quite prone to illness, well, yeah, of course, those two things are quite right about me. So I can see why they might be valuable in talking about my health, even if they're not terms that I might have used originally.
And they come
He also told me that characterising people by personality type tells him which herbs to prescribe.
And so there are herbs which are cooling and drying, for example. There are herbs with a heating and drying. They tend to be these hot spices like cayenne or ginger. There are herbs which are all other forms of combinations. As everybody has an individual story, an individual face, an individual life history, inevitably that means they will have an individual treatment plan.
I left Simon with mixed feelings. The notion of personality types isn't based on any science. But I can see the attraction of an approach that focuses on the individual.
If there's one criticism I have with Western medical approaches, it's that the body can be seen as a machine that goes wrong sometimes. We just try to fix the bit that goes wrong. I like the idea of individualised medicines to treat each of us, because of course all of our bodies are extremely different. So having suitable things that are tailored right for us makes sense.
But could it be this individual attention that's actually making people better? How do I know the herbs are doing anything at all? To get another view, I'm going to visit a country where herbs are claimed to have an astonishing effect. In South Africa, there's a long and vibrant tradition of herbal medicine. In the local villages, conventional drugs are beyond most people's reach. And herbs are all they've got.
So we have all these herbs laid out before us. What do they all do?
Yeah, this one is pillar, leaf long. This one we call it leaf long. It relieves asthma and TB.
Okay.
Even is good for pregnant women and small children.
Okay, and how about this one here?
This is African potato. It relieves ulcer.
Ulcers?
Yes.
Okay.
But one herb stands out. It's called Sutherlandia.
I'm driving up the east coast of South Africa through KwaZulu-Natal. I'm just about to meet a woman who claims that Sutherlandia has some intriguing properties.
Anne Hutchings is a medical researcher and herbal practitioner. Several years ago, she started using Sutherlandia to treat people suffering from HIV/AIDS. To her astonishment, she claims, it appears to help.
No, you've still got those lumps. Something here. You've got something here. Okay. Have you been coughing?
Nonhlashla has had AIDS for 11 years.
In my thumb.
Anne Hutchings started treating her 6 years ago.
Have a look. All right, you can close it now. It'll get stiff. The sore here, is it getting better?
Yeah, it's better now.
It's better now. All right.
What difference has Sutherlandia made to you?
It gave me the power. I've got the power now. If I'm loss of appetite, the Sutherlandia make me eat. Makes you hungry, doesn't it? Yes. And the pain go away.
Pain goes away.
Go away.
And without Sutherlandia, how do you think you'd be now?
Without Sutherlandia, I'm going to die. I think I'm going to die if I haven't got Sutherlandia.
This is not an isolated case. Anne has treated more than 800 patients in local clinics. Over 50% have improved. She even claims Sutherlandia boosts the immune system by increasing white blood cells.
Recently we've had some blood counts on the patients which indicates that it is working really as an immune stimulant, and it can be seen in the blood tests.
Her figures appear to suggest that in some cases the white blood cell count has doubled to near normality.
So you're saying that the Sutherlandia helps to increase people's blood counts, their white blood cells, which improves their health?
Yes, and their resistance to infection.
Anne's work is controversial and not documented yet. But she's not claiming Sutherlandia is a solution to AIDS, merely that it's helping some people.
I mean, I'd been told to try it and that it would probably boost the immune system, but I don't think anybody knew quite what it would do. A lot of my patients swear it's saved their lives, and I think it has. It improves the quality of life, and I believe it does extend people's lives. I think it's actually very exciting. I think it's one of the most exciting things that has happened.
Some of the most striking results appear to come from a local AIDS hospice. Here, people considered beyond treatment by the local hospital come to die. This patient arrived in a coma 4 days ago. She's been having daily doses of Sutherlandia and has already improved significantly.
She looks much better than when she came.
Already?
Yeah.
We only take those patients who are dying, who have been rejected by the hospitals, maybe at times by the families. And they come here just to die. But since we started with Sutherlandia, we were able to discharge 50% of our patients, and they would go back to work and they become so strong, I mean, depending what stage they come into us.
So you're really saying that 50% of your patients previously would have died, and now with Sutherlandia, they're going away?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's just that.
That's amazing. And what happens then? After they've almost died, they've come here, they've started Sutherlandia. How much longer do your patients usually live for?
I've seen the patients living for 3 years after that, provided they come back and then they take on Sutherlandia.
Coming to a place like this makes you realise that for most people on the planet, herbs aren't just a fad or a fashion. If Anne Hutchings is right, they may make the difference between life and death.
The stories are really moving. But I'm a Western-trained scientist, and to convince me and other scientists in the West that herbs really work, I need to find evidence that's more solid than this. One group that's been following the boom in herbs with particular interest is the medical profession. So what do doctors make of them?
It's very difficult to actually pin down exactly how much we know about different herbs. What we've really got is some anecdotal evidence, some stories from individuals, sometimes over centuries. But relatively speaking, compared to modern drugs, manufactured drugs, we have much less evidence, much less robust evidence. That's really what we need. We need that kind of information and evidence because, quite simply, if something is effective, it's also potentially dangerous.
So what worries doctors, just as it worries me, is that much of the case for herbs appears to rest on anecdote.
And it seems to me that the problem is that here in Britain, herbs are right outside the mainstream of science. So there's very little will and almost no money to really investigate them properly.
Yet paging through the medical data, there's one country where they seem to take it all much more seriously. That country is Germany, where for particular historic reasons, there's never been a sharp division between science and herbalism.
Here, all GPs are trained in at least a little bit of herbal medicine, and a large majority of them treat people with herbs just as a part of their common practice.
In fact, in Germany, the second most popular drug after aspirin is ginkgo. In the UK, that would be unheard of.
This has made Germany one of the world's leading centres in scientific research on herbal remedies.
Germany's commitment to herbs goes back to the 19th century. But it was given an unexpected modern spin in the 1930s. The Nazis, in the search for a uniquely German health system, saw in herbs the medicine of the common people. They pushed herbalism into the medical mainstream and jacked up production and research. Today, the Nazi contribution to herbalism in Germany is controversial. Yet there's no doubt that this fascination with herbs still lives on.
And part of that legacy is this, the Commission E monographs. It's probably one of the most comprehensive dossiers ever put together in the world on the safety and effectiveness of herbs.
The monographs are the result of 20 years' work by researchers and manufacturers during the 1980s and 90s.
Of the 300 different herbs that were tested, 191 were approved. So from arnica to yarrow. And this is used as the basis for any new registration of a herbal product in Germany.
The monographs represent the first systematic attempt to put herbal remedies on a rigorous footing. Yet looking through them, I have problems. If you take a closer look, there are very few references.
So you can't check out any of the evidence. And if you speak to the people who created this, they say that it's based partly on anecdotal and partly on historical uses of a herb.
So although it's extremely comprehensive, from a scientist's point of view, it's not quite the herbal Bible some people say it is. What I need is a technology that can show what herbs are really made up of. That's why I'm going to go visit a research centre near here. In state-of-the-art labs like these, scientists have discovered in recent years that it's possible to analyse plants in the sort of detail that Commission E researchers could only have dreamt of.
Nowadays, we have access to techniques like thin layer chromatography, which is just an approach that separates out the different chemical compounds from within a herb. So, for instance, I've taken the essence of a herb, ginkgo, and put a thin line of that on this extremely thin plate. And I put the whole thing into a liquid, which soaks up this thin plate and carries up the different chemical compounds by different amounts. Now, you can't see much on this yet, but I'm going to do some things to it that should reveal what chemicals are inside the ginkgo. And I just have a supply of nitrogen here. There we go. And after spraying, you can see some little yellow lines that have gone up the plate. Now, you still can't see that much, so I'm going to go try something else. Because I've sprayed the plate, we're going to be able to see the chemical fingerprint of ginkgo by putting this underneath these ultraviolet lights. And look at that. It's just amazing that different lines Each represents a different chemical compound from the herb.
Taking herbs apart like this means we can see exactly what they're made of. So if you look at the fingerprint from the ginkgo leaf, and you know how to read it, it's separated out into lots of different chemicals, some of which are ginkgolides, and they can help to prevent blood clots. Ginkgolides are a family of chemicals with known medicinal properties that are only found in ginkgo. This one here is from the hawthorn leaf, which is supposed to be good for the cardiovascular system. This contains some polyphenols, and these are able to make your heart beat stronger. So there's no question that herbs contain some useful chemicals. But it's not clear that they're actually in a form that the human body can absorb. In short, herbs have the potential to work. But that doesn't mean they do. To answer that question, they need to be tested on people. One of the most thoroughly investigated is a herb believed to relieve depression. Jenny Miles has suffered from it much of her life.
I remember when I took my GCSEs at school when I was only 15 that I felt so useless and so worthless with myself that I literally wanted to take a shed load of paracetamols and just end it all.
Jenny has continued to struggle with these black moods as a young mother.
Depression just takes your heart and soul away from you. You don't want to continue. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. As soon as you've dealt with one problem, there's going to be another one, and you're never really going to get over it.
Jenny took antidepressants, but she didn't like the effect they had.
It just blankets out everything you're feeling. It doesn't just take away the lows, it takes away the highs. It takes away the very essence of you, and you're literally walking around like a zombie.
As a last resort, she took a herb called St. John's wort. The benefits, she says, were almost immediate.
I was able to control my depression so much better than I'd ever been able to do before. I could hear myself about to snap at my husband for not having done anything wrong whatsoever and being able to stop it before I said it. It was so thrilling to be given something that worked so phenomenally well.
Experiences like this have encouraged scientists to look more closely at St. John's wort. One of the centres of research is Germany. Here, a manufacturer of herbal products has conducted rigorous clinical trials into the plant.
When did you do your trials in St. John's wort?
We started clinical trials in St. John's wort about 10 years ago, and we knew it was traditionally used in people who felt sad, depressed or dejected. So what we wanted to know was whether we could bolster up this experience-based knowledge by modern clinical trials.
St. John's wort contains a chemical called hyperforin, which is believed to reduce depression. But is it in a form that can be used by the human body? The researchers recruited nearly 2,000 volunteers suffering from mild to moderate depression.
Do you have trouble getting to sleep at night? Yes. Do you find yourself feeling worthless?
I have that.
Have you considered ways that you'd end your life?
I once took some paracetamol, quite a large number.
Have you ever deliberately harmed yourself?
Some volunteers were then given a standardised extract of St John's wort.
Now, you remember I was saying in the study...
The rest got a conventional antidepressant or a dummy pill.
I don't know which one these pills are, and you won't know until the end of the trial. Is that okay?
Over the course of the trials, researchers carefully monitored the mental state of each volunteer. Then they analysed the data. Would St John's wort be effective? The results were unequivocal.
We found that there's a considerable amount of people who gets completely cured. And what is very amazing is that many of these people don't get another episode again, so it prevents them from relapses.
That's amazing. In the most recent trial, 50% of those who took St John's wort improved, against just 33% who took a standard antidepressant. Moreover, twice as many of those on conventional drugs reported side effects.
St John's wort has changed my life because it's enabled me to be me. I'm blessed with two wonderful, beautiful children, and St John's wort has given me the power to be able to see that. And I can thoroughly enjoy being their mum.
Here at last is solid proof that a herb not only works, but works better than conventional drugs. Yet St John's wort is only one of dozens of remedies commonly used by herbalists. In Leicester, the Mystery family have been prescribed a cocktail of herbs to help with Aisha's eczema.
It's good to see you all again, and Isha.
This is now their third consultation with herbalist Saraine Foster. Progress is painfully slow.
How's she been getting on?
Her skin's improved slightly, you know, but it's like a very slow improvement kind of thing that happens. But her itchiness, her personal itchiness, her ability to control her hands, sometimes it feels like her fingers are possessed, you know, and it's just like you can't do nothing about it.
Right. At the moment, Isha has eczema on her neck, on her front. I assume she's got it on her back as well, and she's got it on her legs and her feet. So it's pretty general. The skin is very leathery. Her face looks a lot better than it was when we first met, which is good. That seems to have calmed down a little bit. And how is she getting on with her sleeping?
It varies. Not a full night's sleep.
Yeah, last couple of days she was very, very bad. Down. Okay, I'm sorry.
I think if we focus on the treatment to cool her down a bit more, and also to try and prevent or help the itch.
Saraine brews up a new cocktail of 6 herbs to soothe and heal Aisha's skin. It includes calendula, bolota, ephedra, humulus, chamomile and marshmallow.
Although she is still obviously troubled by itching, she has calmed down just so much.
She also makes a couple of creams to help with the skin. For Aisha and her parents, the jury's still out on whether herbs will help them crack this most difficult medical condition.
2 hands on
The herbs have helped, but it's a slow process. We just hope, rather sooner than later, that she gets better.
Today, we know more about herbs than ever before. Dozens of remedies have been analysed. But how good are the tests? And what do they prove? To find out, I consulted Professor Edzard Ernst, the UK's first professor of complementary medicine.
The science in herbal medicine is as good as any science in alternative medicine. I know of clinical trials in herbal medicine which compare favorably with clinical trials in pharmacology or any other area of medicine.
Ernst told me that there had been hundreds of trials on dozens of commonly used herbal remedies. So, for instance, to my surprise, there's no real scientific evidence that ginseng helps with mental alertness, or that evening primrose oil helps with menstrual problems. They've been through clinical trials, and they just don't work. There isn't even any solid proof that echinacea helps to boost the immune system or fight off colds. Yet, using the most rigorous criteria, Ernst has found overwhelming evidence that some herbs do work.
There's jolly good evidence for at least a dozen different herbal medicines to help in specific diseases.
These are what have been called the super herbs. So, there's St John's wort for mild to moderate depression, black cohosh, that helps with the effects of menopause, devil's claw, and that helps to act as an anti-inflammatory and helps with joint pains. Garlic can reduce cholesterol and decrease your blood pressure as well. Saw palmetto, that one can help men with enlarged prostates to urinate better. Hawthorn can help with heart conditions. And horse chestnut can help some of the symptoms associated with varicose veins. These herbs have been proven to work. They've been through clinical trials that are just as rigorous as those used for conventional drugs. And there's the amazing ginkgo. Ernst and his team have found there's solid proof that it really can help people like Michael Campbell suffering from cramping conditions in the legs. But it may also help with tinnitus. It may even reduce memory loss in some people. Of course, none of this means these are the only herbs that work. They're merely the ones that have been tested.
I'm sure that out there are dozens, hundreds perhaps, of treasures to be found within the plant kingdom. I'm absolutely convinced that this is not the end. We will continue to find very effective treatments from plants.
But there's something more. What's causing real excitement is not that herbs work, but how they work. Unravelling this could just provide answers to some of the most difficult medical conditions of the 21st century. One place to start this inquiry is back in South Africa, where scientists have been looking very closely at how herbs work.
I'm at the University of Johannesburg, and here they're doing research into how Sutherlandia works. And they're coming up with some amazing things that could have huge implications for how other herbs work. Now, Carl, I know that you've been studying Sutherlandia. What exactly are you doing here?
Trying to isolate certain molecules from Sutherlandia, trying to separate them.
He said one group of chemicals had particularly caught his attention. They're known as flavonoids.
They contain molecules that have been shown to be active on cancer cells and also on HIV infection. So they're not trivial molecules, but there's a mystery here.
What's puzzling is that flavonoids are very large molecules. So large, they don't easily pass through a cell membrane. So they should be impossible for the human body to absorb.
So although we know that the flavonoid contains chemical structures that have got proven, highly relevant pharmacological activity, the mystery is how do they get into cells?
The mystery caused Albrecht to think again. Could it be that Sutherlandia's apparent efficacy was a myth, and that the human body can't absorb the active part of the plant? Albrecht wondered if he'd missed something. Then he had another thought.
The interesting thought that has arisen in our research is that there's another family of molecules called the saponins, or the detergents. They're soap-like. Just to give you an idea, I've got some of the plant material here in water. There we go. Shake it up. And you'll see. What?
That's what you get with hot water.
I got a warning about that one earlier on, but look at that. It's forming a soap layer. And the idea that arose, couldn't it be that these saponins are acting on the membranes of the cells to allow the membranes to take up the flavonoids?
Okay, so flavonoids might be able to help with something like HIV and AIDS, but flavonoids can't get through the cell membrane in human beings, so they shouldn't really be having an effect just by eating the herb. However, there's another substance which is like a detergent, and that can change the structure of the flavonoid and mean that it can cross the cell membrane.
Not so much change the structure of the flavonoid, but change the structure of the membrane to let the flavonoid go through.
Okay.
In short, what makes a herb like Sutherlandia special is that unlike most conventional drugs, it's not a single chemical. It's a cocktail of chemicals that react together so the sum is greater than the parts.
The simple but powerful thought here, this is a hypothesis, is that if you take the one and you take the other and you put them together, you get activity. So it's like 1 + 1 is not equal to 2, 1 + 1 is equal to 10. That is a powerful idea.
It's a process called synergy. You might think of it as an orchestra with each of the different instruments working together. Unfortunately, symphonies of chemicals like this are still too complicated for scientists to reproduce. Yet there's tantalizing evidence that it's precisely this cocktail that gives herbs their special healing powers. One place they're testing the idea is London's Imperial College. Here, they're examining whether a herbal cocktail can be exploited to treat one of the most puzzling chronic conditions of the 21st century: Alzheimer's. The research is being led by Dr. James Warner.
This is a magnetic resonance image scan of a 62-year-old person with Alzheimer's disease.
The scan shows abnormally large black areas where brain cells have died. They also show an increase in fluid. The problem for doctors is that there's no clear understanding of what causes this multiple degeneration.
There are a number of different theories, one of which is that there may be chemicals called free radicals attacking the brain tissue. There's another possibility, which is that the blood vessels in people with Alzheimer's disease begin to narrow. This causes an interruption to the blood supply to the brain, and as a result, brain cells die.
So it seems that several different things are all contributing to Alzheimer's. And it's this very complexity that has made attempts to treat it using conventional drugs relatively unsuccessful. The difficulty is that creating medicines that can tackle several causes at one time is extremely difficult. Yet according to Warner, there's a herbal cocktail that might be capable of doing just that. It's that remarkable plant, ginkgo. It's an extraordinarily complex mixture of up to 200 chemicals. This means that unlike conventional drugs, it may be able to have several different effects simultaneously.
The first thing it will be doing is dilating the blood vessels, increasing the blood flow to the brain, and therefore improving the delivery of oxygen to nerve cells. It also probably scavenges those free radicals, those toxic chemicals that the body produces that attack nerve cells. And by scavenging those free radicals, it might help to reduce the development of Alzheimer's disease.
Attempts to do this synthetically have so far had limited success.
So the great advantage of ginkgo is that we can't make anything as clever as this, or as complicated as this. Nearly all conventional medicines are a single chemical entity. They usually only have one action, whereas ginkgo has many actions.
In other words, it's the herbal shotgun that can hit a range of targets versus the conventional single bullet that can only hit one. But is Warner right? To find out, he's running what he hopes will be the definitive clinical trial into whether ginkgo can help with Alzheimer's.
What I'm going to do now, Arnold, is show you some everyday objects, and I'd just like you to tell me what each one's called. Okay?
Nearly 200 volunteers suffering from various degrees of Alzheimer's have been recruited.
So first of all, could you tell me what that's called?
A flower.
It is a flower.
Each is assessed and then given ginkgo or a dummy pill. They're then revisited 6 months later and reassessed to see if there's been any change.
Well, the doctor uses it to measure, it might be a heartbeat, I'm not sure.
He would use it to listen to your heart, yeah?
Oh, I don't know the name of it now. No, not now. No.
The results of Warner's trial aren't due until spring 2006, although earlier trials have strongly suggested that ginkgo works.
Tweezers. That's right.
But the trial could have much wider implications. It may just be that, like Alzheimer's, many of the chronic diseases of the 21st century require a more complex chemical cocktail than we can currently make. In which case, herbs, in all their complexity, may just be the answer. Back in Leicester, the mysteries are continuing to battle with exactly this kind of complex condition. Aisha has now been taking herbs for her eczema for 6 months. The change is quite extraordinary.
Look at that arm. That is fantastic. And these hands, the skin is just marvellous.
There's much more moisture on her skin than previously. Before, it used to be very wrinkly. Yeah, as you can see.
Her face looks very, very good. Very, very good indeed. But I can see that there's a little patch, isn't there, underneath the chin?
It comes up all around, like little small patches of red when she's tired.
Yes. Okay. And
eczema is notoriously fickle, and it could well flare up again.
Ooh. Oh, that's lovely. That is just so much better than it was.
When we first brought it over,
it really is very, very much better.
There are no clinical trials that prove herbs can cure eczema.
Every now and then you might see some claw marks on it because when she gets scratchy or tired, but it tends to heal much better than what it used to.
Yet we could just be getting closer to understanding why herbs may work for complex conditions like this that continue to outwit conventional drugs.
At this moment in time, we're on an upward trend, on a roll, and I'm just concerned that we don't take a step backwards.
Now that Isha's skin has stopped seeping like it was and weeping like it was, we can confidently use other herbs that help to heal.
It's helped my daughter. Whether it's going to help anybody else's daughter, I can't guarantee that myself. But for my child, I believe it's been the right choice.
Today, it's recognised that some herbs, at least, can be powerful, effective medicines. But that also means that they can be dangerous.
Just like drugs, herbs can have side effects. They can even contain dangerously high levels of toxic chemicals. But because they've never been thought of as medicines, until recently, there have been very few controls over their safety or quality.
In an attempt to address some of these issues, new legislation now requires that herbs that make any claims to have medicinal properties now have to go through rigorous quality standards.
Perhaps this is the first step in breaking the division between conventional drugs and the proven medicinal herbs. A recognition that these herbs might have something special and unique to offer.
During my journey, of course, I began knowing that an ingredient taken from a particular herb could have a medicinal effect. But what's really impressed me has been the way that different ingredients from a particular herb can combine together and have really powerful effects on us humans. So I believe that herbs are going to play a key role in medicines of the future.
What started as an ancient wisdom just might provide new medicines that will help us all live longer, fuller lives.
Jane Horrocks discovers her family history rooted in the cotton mills of Lancashire tomorrow night. Who Do You Think You Are is at 9. Well, back to tonight and a past gem. Jane Leaves was in the chair for Have I Got News For You? Next.
For a free Open University leaflet about alternative medicine and details of all Open University programmes, call 08700 100 878 or log on to open2.net.